What if I told you the most iconic house tours in TV history were lies? While millions of viewers dreamed about jacuzzis in the bedroom and gold-plated staircases, behind the scenes, something shady was going on. Celebrities were faking homes. Bridges were staged. And the show that promised real access gave us an illusion so powerful we're still living in it today. This isn't just about TV. It's about how MTV Cribs taught us to worship wealth, even if it was borrowed. It's about how one show rewired an entire generation's idea of success. This is the story of how MTV Cribs faked it, and how the world followed. It's the year 2000. MTV is king. TRL is blasting boy bands. Jackass is redefining pain. And suddenly, a new show premieres. A camera crew pulls up to a celebrity's mansion. The gates swing open. The celebrity grins and says, "Welcome to my crib." And just like that, a generation is hooked. MTV Cribs was a phenomenon. It was flashy, chaotic, and addictive. It wasn't just entertainment. It was a blueprint for success. It didn't matter if you were 12 or 32. When you watched Cribs, it whispered, "This is what making it looks like." Big gates. Big cars. Big fridges. And if you didn't have those things, you weren't winning. Each episode ran like a fantasy tour. A bedroom with 3 flat screens. A closet bigger than your apartment. A pool shaped like a dollar sign. And always, that perfectly staged kitchen. The more ridiculous the flex, the more we believed it. We thought, if Mariah's bathtub fills from the ceiling, that must be what being rich really feels like. It didn't even have to make sense. The show was selling one thing: luxury. At all costs. Every episode followed the same formula. "Hey MTV, welcome to my crib." Car showcase. Fridge flex. Bedroom with a line. "This is where the magic happens." A quick shot of a game room. Then the classic exit. "Now get out." It was part brag, part brand building, and all fantasy. And it worked. MTV Cribs ran for 13 seasons. It featured over 200 stars. It became the network's most watched non-music show. But then something weird started happening. Let's start with Ja Rule. His Cribs episode was peak early 2000s opulence. A giant Miami mansion. A marble staircase. A waterfront view. He welcomed us into his home, laughed into the camera, and casually said, "This is just a little getaway spot." Except, it wasn't. In 2004, a report exposed that Ja Rule's crib wasn't his at all. It belonged to a regular family. A family who had to leave for the weekend so Ja Rule could pretend it was his. He opened their fridge, sat on their couch, swam in their pool. And when the family came back, they found their actual food broadcast on national television. That wasn't a flex. That was fraud. If it had stopped there, maybe it would have blown over. But then came Bow Wow. He showed off a mansion that looked like it was straight out of a movie set. But behind the scenes, he was still living at home with his mom. Years later, he admitted it. "Yeah, that wasn't my house. It was just for the show." Then there was JoJo, the teenage pop star. Her Cribs episode made it look like she had her own lavish Hollywood home. But in reality, she was living in her mom's apartment and still doing homework. It wasn't just a few people bending the truth. It was an entire machine built on lies. As the years passed, people started noticing the cracks. Why did so many houses have the same foyer? Why did completely different celebrities seem to have the same pool? Why were there juice boxes in the fridge of a 25-year-old rapper with no kids? People started comparing episodes side by side, and what they found was wild. In some cases, it was the same house, dressed differently. In others, It was homes that were rented for a day. Sometimes, it was a friend's house, or even a record label executive's mansion. And then, there's the fridge. The sacred fridge. Every episode had to show it. It was MTV law. And it was always the same. 12 bottles of vitamin water. 15 boxes of frozen waffles. 30 cans of Red Bull. Maybe a steak. Maybe some sushi. And none of it made sense. Most of it didn't belong to the celebrity. Because that fridge? It was staged. MTV would send people, actual food stylists, to stock it. They didn't want reality. They wanted the illusion of excess. They wanted to make it look like this was normal. That this was how successful people lived. And we believed them. Some homes were rented. Some were borrowed. Some were completely unrelated to the artist. But that didn't matter. Because Cribs wasn't selling reality. It was selling status. The bigger the lie, the bigger the buzz. And for the celebrities, it paid off. A fake house on Cribs could make you look 10 times richer than you were. It could boost your image, help you sell more records, get you booked on more shows. It was image first, facts second, until one man decided to do the opposite. Redman. But that is next. Let's get one thing straight. MTV Cribs was not a documentary. It was a reality show. And in TV, reality is just a word. Behind the scenes, every episode was scripted, produced, and curated to make celebrities look untouchable. They didn't just show up and film. There were pre-production meetings. There were prop teams. There were lighting crews. There were scripts. Before the cameras rolled, producers had already decided where to film, what to showcase, what the celeb should say. They even gave them prompts. Show us the fridge. Walk us through the master bedroom. Say, this is where the magic happens. That line wasn't organic. It was a directive. It was TV's version of catchphrase branding. And it worked. Every celebrity hit the same beats. Garage. Kitchen. Closet. Bedroom. Pool. Buy. Every crib started to feel like the same house. Because in many cases, it was. Sometimes producers would even rent the location themselves if the celebrity didn't have a good enough house. MTV didn't want authenticity. They wanted aspiration. And they weren't just directing what you saw. They were curating what you didn't see. Messy closets were off limits. Small rooms were avoided. Budget kitchens? Hidden. They would rearrange furniture, remove clutter, and decorate the home like a showroom. In some cases, they brought in luxury cars. The celeb didn't own them, didn't drive them. They were props. Imagine faking wealth just to fit in on your own show. Even the driveways were staged. If the house didn't have one, producers would park the car on grass or create an illusion with camera angles. And you know what's wild? A lot of the celebrities didn't even want to fake it. But they were told, this is how the game works. If you wanted to appear successful, you had to play the part. MTV gave them the stage. They just had to perform. And then, one guy said no. Redman's Cribs episode aired in 2001. And it changed everything. While everyone else was renting mansions, Redman let MTV into his real home. Not a rented palace. Not a label-owned loft. Just a small, dusty duplex in Newark, New Jersey. And it was chaos. Wires dangling from the ceiling. A doorbell that didn't work, because it was literally just two wires you had to touch together. A cousin sleeping on the floor. Clothes everywhere. No fancy cars. No gold walls. Just Redman, chilling in his socks. When he opened his fridge, there was no styling. Just a bottle of ketchup, an old sandwich, and a half-empty soda bottle. It was raw. It was real. And it went viral before viral was even a thing. Redman didn't care about flexing. He cared about being honest. And in doing so, he accidentally exposed the entire show. Because when you put his real episode next to the staged ones, it became obvious. The others were fake. His house was messy, but it was human. And people loved it. To this day, Redman's episode is still ranked as one of the best in Cribs history. It's funny. It's authentic. It's unforgettable. And it proves something that MTV didn't expect. Viewers weren't obsessed with wealth. They were obsessed with truth. Redman showed that you didn't need a mansion to be interesting. You just had to be you. But the show didn't change. If anything, the lies got bigger. Because for most celebrities, Cribs wasn't about being honest. It was about crafting a legend. And Redman? He was just the exception that proved the rule. Let's talk about the money. Because if you're wondering why so many celebrities were down to fake their homes on national TV, the answer is simple. It paid off. In the music industry, perception is everything. If people think you're rich, they treat you like you're successful. If you look like you're balling, people assume you're winning. And that perception? It turns into real business. When an artist shows off a mansion, a Bentley, a platinum fridge full of champagne, the world sees power. And that illusion becomes a weapon. It helps you sell more records, book more shows, sign more endorsements, raise your rates. So what if the house isn't really yours? The fans don't know. And even if they find out, it's too late. You've already cashed the checks. Cribs became the ultimate marketing tool. You didn't have to be rich. You just had to look like you were. That's why managers, publicists, and labels were all in on the game. The fake houses, the staged fridges, the borrowed cars, all of it was part of a strategy. Cribs wasn't about reality. It was about image control. And the artists weren't the only ones benefiting. MTV was printing money. The show was a hit. Advertisers loved it. Ratings were sky high. And the network had created something priceless. A reality show where nobody questioned the reality. They didn't need scripts. They didn't need actors. They just needed a camera crew, a fancy house, and a willing celebrity. From there, the audience did the rest. We believed it. We wanted it. We craved it. MTV Cribs taught us that if you looked rich, you were rich. And that lie? It outlived the show. When Cribs ended, the world didn't go back to normal. We didn't stop flexing. We just moved to Instagram. Today, we live in a world built on the same lie that Cribs sold us. Influencers rent Lamborghinis for photo shoots. They Airbnb mansions for the weekend. They post morning routine videos filmed in hotel bathrooms. And we believe it. Because Cribs trained us to. It made us associate wealth with worth, luxury with success, stuff with status. Now we don't just want a good life. We want one that looks good on camera. And the pressure is everywhere. You open TikTok, someone's in a penthouse. You scroll Instagram, someone's driving a supercar. You watch YouTube, someone's giving a house tour of a place they've rented for 72 hours. It's Cribs 2.0. Same formula, new platform. But the result is the same. A generation that feels behind. That thinks success is measured in square footage. That thinks being broke is a personal failure, not a systemic reality. Because when you grow up watching staged wealth, you start believing it's the default. And you start feeling like you're the only one who doesn't have it. That's the real legacy of MTV Cribs. Not the pools. Not the closets. Not the bling. The lie. The lie that looking rich is more important than being real. Here's the truth. MTV Cribs was fake. Not always. Not completely. But enough to matter. Enough to blur the line between flexing and fraud. Enough to convince millions of people that success looked like a fridge full of Fiji water and a four-door Lamborghini. But even with all the lies, it worked. We watched. We dreamed. We believed. Because the fantasy felt good. And sometimes, the illusion is easier to accept than the truth. But now, we know better. So the next time you see a house tour on TikTok, or an influencer living the dream, or a rapper showing off their 18-car garage, ask yourself, is it real? Or is it just another Cribs? Because sometimes, the biggest mansions aren't homes. They're just sets, props, rental illusions. And we're still out here, knocking on the door, hoping we get to live inside. Please subscribe to support me make more insightful videos like this.